We do not simply want to do the right thing. We need to believe that we are good people. But somewhere beneath the identity we present to others and even to ourselves, there are thoughts, emotions, and impulses we would rather not admit are ours. So we run from them. We hide them. We call them not me. But what if the longer we run from these parts, the more control they gain over us? Being seen as good is not vanity. It is something far more fundamental. Human beings naturally seek belonging. We need approval, trust, and a stable sense of who we are. The label good person gives us something essential, acceptance from others and a kind of peace within ourselves. Without it, we feel exposed, uncertain, and disconnected. So we protect it. We build an identity around it. And slowly, that identity begins to carry rules. A good person does not feel envy. A good person is never selfish. A good person does not harbor resentment or quietly want an advantage. And so when those feelings arrive, as they inevitably do, we do not examine them. We hide them. Because admitting they exist feels like a threat to everything we believe about ourselves. But beneath the identity we protect, opposing forces are constantly at work. What if this inner conflict is not a flaw, but a natural part of being human? Freud believed that opposing forces exist within us. The impulse to create, connect, and preserve, alongside more aggressive and destructive impulses. Our behavior emerges from the tension between them. We can love someone and still resent them. We can help someone and still want to be noticed for it. We can forgive while part of us remains quietly angry. We can believe in fairness while secretly hoping for an advantage. We can care deeply about others and still, in certain moments, act entirely for ourselves. These contradictions do not make us dishonest. They do not make us bad. They reveal something far more accurate, that human motivation is complex, layered, and almost never completely pure. The problem is not that these parts exist. The problem begins when we refuse to acknowledge that they do. The reason we suppress these uncomfortable parts of ourselves comes down to shame and fear. We fear that acknowledging jealousy means we are cruel. We fear that acknowledging anger means we are dangerous. We fear that admitting a selfish motive will collapse the image we have carefully constructed. And so rather than sitting with the discomfort of self-recognition, we find other explanations. We blame the situation. We justify our behavior. We become defensive when someone points too close to the truth. We build elaborate reasoning that protects our identity, while the feeling we refuse to name continues to operate quietly beneath the surface. This is where the real cost becomes visible. What we refuse to recognize does not disappear. It simply finds another way to move. Unacknowledged jealousy may surface as criticism of someone we secretly admire. Hidden resentment may appear as coldness we cannot quite explain. The need for recognition may disguise itself as generosity. The desire for control may present itself as concern. Unrecognized anger may shape our decisions, while we continue telling ourselves we are simply being reasonable. And this is the crucial distinction. Experiencing an impulse is not the same as acting on it. The objective is not to eliminate difficult emotions. It is to recognize them early enough to choose what we actually do with them. The real conflict was never between good people and bad people. It has always been internal. One part of us wants to preserve the image of being completely good. Another part carries the emotions and desires that do not fit that image. The more energy we spend proving the rejected part does not exist, the less opportunity we have to understand it. And this is how an internal conflict quietly becomes behavior. Two parts of the same person, moving in opposite directions, neither one fully seen. Understanding our darker side does not mean celebrating it or surrendering to every impulse. It means being honest enough to say, I feel jealousy, so something must feel threatened. I feel resentment, so something has gone unspoken. I want recognition, so I should understand why it matters to me. I feel the desire to control this, so I need to ask whether acting on it is actually fair. Self-awareness creates a space between impulse and action. Within that space, we have a genuine ability to choose. Perhaps being human was never about becoming completely good or removing every destructive impulse. Perhaps it is about knowing what exists within us and accepting responsibility for what we choose to do with it. The parts you hide do not disappear. They simply learn to move without being seen. But when you stop running from them, they stop controlling the direction. Understanding your darker side does not make you a bad person. It makes you more honest, more responsible, and more human. This is default mode, where we look beyond the label to understand the human. Understanding the darker parts of ourselves does not make us bad. It makes us more honest, more responsible, and more human. If you want to explore more of the hidden forces shaping who we are, subscribe to Default Mode, where we look beyond the labels to understand the human.